Hello, this is Anna Imagination with the Healing Garden, and welcome to Shifting Perspectives. So one of the huge things with at what age are we supposed to be at all of these? This is the embarrassing part. We are supposed to learn each and every one of these perspectives before we are 8 and 9 years old. That is how badly our parents have interfered with our evolution of growth. That we have 65-year-olds who are stuck at perspective 3 and 4. It's why adults act like children. It's because they have the values and the ethics of a 3-year-old. When we are taught to sit down and learn how to share with other people, part of sharing is learning that you can't do it alone. You are not supposed to make a child share. They have to figure that out on their own. It goes like this. 3-year-old. Now remember, you can have an aggressive 3-year-old, a passive 3-year-old, or a neutral 3-year-old. The aggressive 3-year-olds, those are the ones who test us. But they're 3. So we can do this. All right, parents, here's how it goes. When you have playtime and you have your children all sitting around, everyone really needs to have a single designated toy. Now, if when one of the children wants another toy, you have to help them figure out that they need to share. Now, this is where we go forth perspectives on our children, where we govern and we lay down the justice and we are the referee. Fourth perspective thinking. It doesn't work that way. They have to internalize the lesson. Now, the child has to realize all on their own that when they share, they get more. That they can't build the Lincoln logs they want to build unless they learn how to negotiate with other children and make a bartering deal. But if you step in as the parent, always reinforcing that they have to share, now you have a narcissist on your hands. If you step in as a parent who allows the other children to steal from them and beat them up, and you don't step up and let the child or help defend the child from the attack, you're going to end up with an empath. You're going to end up with somebody who learns a very different ethical lesson and not the right one. Because the right one creates literally a lack of humility or a lack of self-value. When a child is attacked and assaulted and then told to defend themselves, they learn 2 lessons from that. The first lesson they learn is that they have no self-value or self-importance. Because if they did, mommy and daddy would help me. I must be unimportant. The second lesson the child learns is not to depend on anyone. They learn to be so independent that they don't need anyone else. And what ends up happening is because the child was assaulted, abused, robbed, that 3-year-old has also learned humility without self-importance. So now the child has become impassive. Now the child has internalized too much, the wrong lessons. Meanwhile, the child who can just go around and take whatever it wants without any boundaries, because there are no boundaries, because mom and dad do not teach the child how to do boundaries. The child goes around and takes for himself. In addition, a child who doesn't learn to share on their own because mommy and daddy dictates who is going to do what and play with what, now you've got a child who doesn't know how to self-govern and who has no idea the value of sharing. Third perspectives were either abused by sharing, forced sharing, or they were abused by another child who never had a boundary. A parent, their only job between the child's age of 1 through 10 the only job that you have as a parent is to be the boundary setter for your child. Parenting 101, this is all you're supposed to do. Rule number 1, you need to make sure your child keeps its perspectives off of everybody else. Likewise, your child needs to learn that nobody else is allowed to put their perspective onto your child, because those skills require communication and boundaries that your child will not receive until they reach 7 and 8 years old. A child will not be able to use those words or understand boundaries until and unless they internalize all 6 core lessons of authenticity and they reach age 7 and 8. Then they will know how to assert boundaries properly. But it is a parent's duty to set those boundaries for the child. Helicopter parents put the child in the corresponding perspective before the child is ready. Helicopter parents do not allow the child to internalize the ethic. They save them from humility. Over strict parents are perspective abusers who force their own perspective onto their children. Period. All the time. Constantly. They don't allow the child to experience the same core lessons in the same order that they had learned. The problem is most parents are 3rd and 4th perspectives. 5th perspectives are the people who go, I'm going to wait until my 30s and 40s to have kids. Those are your 5th perspectives. Because 2s value community. And by the time 3s get up and they're still hooked on, I can't do it alone, or well, they believe they can do it alone. So they start viewing people, they always view people as things that they can take from, things that they can use, just like a 3-year-old. A 4-year-old who learns the lesson of humility becomes obsessed with rule following then. At 4 years old, that's that 4-year-old who wants to know, it's bedtime, it's time for bed, it's time for this, it's time for this. We have to do everything on schedule, just like a 4-year-old. Except that 4-year-old has to learn the lesson that they are allowed to self-govern. But we have an entire society outside saying, you're not allowed to self-govern. The government is here to save you. The church is here to save you. Everyone else can self-govern. You don't need to do that. The millennials came into the world and said, fuck that shit. They just need to learn accountability. But there's a lot of 4th, 3rds, and 2nd perspectives who don't understand that about the millennials. And these poor millennials, poor everybody, was raised by a bunch of 2nd, 3rd, and 4th perspectives. So now you've got millennials who are raised by narcissists. You've got millennials, people who are trying to learn accountability, who had their 2nd perspective abused, who had their 3rd ethic abused. Let's stop calling these perspectives and start calling them ethics, because that's what these are. They're not perspectives. They're ethics. How you see the world is how you see your ethic. It's ethic abuse. So if you had your 2nd ethic assaulted, you're going to have a problem with self-comfort. And when you have a problem with self-comfort, addiction, self-harm, binge eating, that starts to kick in because you don't know how to properly regulate your own ability to comfort yourself, because you haven't learned that you are more than your caregiver. Come to the garden. We have classes on this. Likewise, you are more than your religion. You are more than your faith. But if you don't learn that lesson, you become codependent. You have no idea how to separate yourself from your faith. You are parasitically intertwined. You are codependent. You may have gotten to the 6th perspective, but then somebody may have abused you with your 2nd perspective. You may have lost your 2nd ethic, and suddenly you're codependent even though you're a 6th perspective. Or maybe you've got all of the ethics in line, you're all set to go, but you never learned that you can't do it alone, that you do need help. You just think you're hyper independent, when in fact you were just horribly abused. Your third perspective was just horribly abused and taken away from you. You lost your third ethic. Because you lost your third ethic, you are either a narcissist or you have borderline personality disorder. Which illness you have will tell you which ethic you lost. Once you know which ethic you lost, you'll be able to go in and plug it back in. You'll be able to re-internalize the ethic. When you re-internalize the correct ethic, or just take all 9 ethics, 8 ethics, and plug them in yourself, and as soon as you solidify your relationship with each of these core ethics, you're set, you're good. But if you still need to understand why, I've got the Trident Healing for you. And if I also have like an awesome little formula that gives you closure. Oh my God, the Healing Garden is so fucking awesome with everything I've got. It's like, ooh, candy. So take a look at the link below and we'll go ahead and get you in here. And yeah, if you love shit like this, subscribe to my YouTube channel, like, subscribe, comment below. Thank you so much. And may the kindest of words always find you.